Welcome back, Sunshine Fam, and this is so far the last video I'll be making for Who Am I? And yep, we are going to delve into my Irish roots today. I am so looking forward to this. So I wanted to step back a little bit to my first video of it where I showed you these shoes. These were my mom's shoes, and that's who we're talking about today, is my mom's side of the family. So my mom wore these shoes when she was a little girl, and they got them bronzed. So I have those by my front door. So today we're going to be talking about her mother's side of the family. Now I know there's glare, sorry. So we're going to be talking about these folks, right? Or the woman in that picture. It's kind of a light picture. It's been faded by the sun, but that is my maternal grandmother and grandfather on their anniversary. Now this whole picture is very special to me, or this frame, because these artifacts belonged to my grandparents. So what I was told about these items is that this item here was the bow tie that my grandfather wore on their wedding day. This is the kerchief or handkerchief that my grandmother carried. This is all stuff that they wore for their wedding anniversary or their wedding day. I'm not sure about these rings. This one especially looks pretty tiny, but we're starting here. I don't know if this was like an engagement ring of hers, but this stuff has a lot of sentimental value. It could have a lot of monetary value as well. But this is the necklace, I'm told, that my grandmother wore on her wedding day. So this dates back to the 1920s. And my parents had gotten all these items, and they got them framed and professionally framed. Sorry, my there. So that is on my grandmother's side. Now today we're going to be talking also about, you know what, I should just shut my curtains. We're going to be talking about this gentleman here. This would have been, I believe, my great-grandpa Murphy, and I will talk about him in a moment. I would take his picture off the wall, but it's kind of hard to get it back up, so that's why I'm showing it to you on the wall. So that's why there's a lot of glare. And this was his wife, and again, very hard to see. I don't know if you can get a good shot of that, but that's his wife, so that would have been my great-grandma Murphy. So I'm going to be talking about these folks today. So, yes, it's me, Chloe. Sorry about the bad shaky camera work here. Let me get myself set up here. So we've got different flags today. Let me flip this over, see where I'm at here. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to get this shot set up. Okay. So this will be, so far, my last video in this Who Am I series, which I call it that because it's kind of my spin-off of my story of my ancestors from a TV show called Who Do You Think You Are? And it's been an interesting ride thus far. I was able to go back much further on my father's side than on my mother's side. But we're going to be talking about my maternal grandmother and her side of the family today. So, to go back just a little bit, my grandmother that I mentioned in my last video, her name was Edith Murphy, and she was born in 1906 and died in 1988. So of course I knew her. Clary was only a year and a half or just over a year old when this woman passed away. She died at the age of 82. She was born in Benson, Minnesota, and died in Minneapolis, Minnesota. She had two jobs or I'm sorry, one job for Barrett Roofing, which is where she met my grandfather. She was a secretary. And she married my grandfather on February 1st of 1927. So that's where those artifacts come from. They had 3 children, my mother, and then my mom had 2 older brothers. Her brothers have since passed away. Her the middle child, passed away in the 1980s from, not necessarily from cancer, because he did have cancer, but he was in remission. But back in the 80s, the cure or the treatment for cancer was much different than it is now. So when he passed away, it was as a result of the chemo that he got. And then her oldest brother, my mom's oldest brother, passed away not too many years ago. And he had a lot of health issues. He was in his 80s, and my mom is in her 80s. So that's just a quick recap of my grandmother. So now let's talk about her parents and go back from there. This is going to be kind of a shorter video because I don't have as much on my grandmother's side. So my great-grandparents on the Murphys was her father, who I showed you on the wall, was named Joseph Jr., and he was born in 1877 and died in 1961, so shortly before I was born. He was 84. He was born in New Jersey. I don't have a city, and he died in Minneapolis. The only occupation I was able to get from my mother was that he was a delivery mailman delivery. His wife, the woman that you saw on the wall, was Catherine Neal, her maiden name. She was born in 1876 and died in 1938. Now, the interesting fact about her is that my mother said that they called her Nellie, and I think it's because of her maiden name of Neal, so they just shortened it to Nellie. Now, she was born on the exact day that she died on the exact day that my mom was born. So the story that I have heard many times from my mother is when the day my mom was born, Catherine was on her way to the hospital to give a gift to my grandmother and my mom for being born. And she was in the elevator to go up to the floor that my grandmother and my mom was on. And she had a heart attack and passed away in the elevator in the hospital. So, of course, my mother never knew her, but they always called her Nellie, I guess, growing up. So that's how my mom knew her, was Grandma Nellie. That's what my mom called her. So she died on the exact day that my mom was born. Very sad. She was born in Spring Valley, Minnesota, and died in Minneapolis. Her occupation was a housekeeper, so if you think back to those years, women didn't really work outside the home much. They got married, but I don't have a marriage date on here. And I only have 2 children listed for them. My grandmother Edith and my great aunt Doris. I don't know if they had any other kids. They probably did, but those are the only 2 that I have on here on the list. So those are the people that I showed you up on the wall there. So now going back on the Murphy side, so we're going on my great-grandfather's side at this point, branching off on that one. So my 2 times great-grandparents, his name was Joseph Sr., and he was born in 1862 and died in 1930. He was born in Bristol, England. So now we've got different flags. I forgot to show you the American flag. Yes, I still have the American flag. So he was born in Bristol, England. I don't know where he died. I don't have an occupation for him. And he was married to a woman, named Emma Catherine Malley. And she was born in 1850. Did I say that again? He was married to her. She was born in 1850 and died in 1921. I don't have a place of where she was born or where she died. And their child that at this point I was just putting the children that were related to me. So whether they had more children, I didn't put that on the list. So their son was Joseph William Jr., and that would be my great-grandfather. So my mom's grandpa. So now we go back, another branch up on that side, to 3 times great-grandparents for the Murphys. His name was John, and he was born in 1831. I don't have much information about him, but this is where I found the Irish side. He was born in Ireland. So I'm not sure exactly what city. I don't have a death location. I don't have an occupation, or I do have an occupation. He was a carpenter. He was also born, or married, gosh, I keep getting these wrong. He was married to a woman named Emma Foraker, and she was also born in Bristol, England, in 1831. Now again, these dates might be wrong, because I find it strange that they were both born in the same year. Not that it's unusual, but those dates might be wrong. And I don't have a death location, don't have an occupation. They were married, but I don't have a date for them. And I do have 4 children listed for them. So I have James, Julia, Joseph Sr., which would have been my 2 times great-grandfather, and Catherine. Now, I noticed on my mother's side, there's a lot of women named Catherine and a lot of men named John or Joseph. So, just an interesting fun fact there. And I did not write down any historical facts on these folks either. I think I was getting back too far to do that, and it would have been a lot of repetitiveness from people that I've already told you about. Now I can go back. Now we're going on the great-grandmother's side to Neil. So my 2 times great-grandparents. I don't have names, unfortunately, but I do have dates and the birth location of the dad. So I don't have his name, but he was born in 1863 and died in 1923, and he was born in Liverpool, England. Don't have a death location, don't have an occupation. I don't have her name. I don't have any information about her except that she was born in 1865 and died in 1925. And the only child I have listed for them was Catherine, or Nellie, like I told you about. So that's the location for me. I think that's as far back as I can actually get on this side now. So like I said, it's a very, very short branch on my grandmother's side, because all the research that I tried to do, it kind of blocked me at 2 or 3 times great-grandparents on my grandmother's side, my maternal grandmother's side. So I can go back to 3 times great-grandparents, but I have the names, but I don't have a lot of information, just that my 3 times great-grandfather, Murphy, was born in Ireland, and his wife was born in Bristol, England. But I can't go any further back than that. So I have to do a little bit more research on these folks. But it's been a really interesting journey for me. So now what I want to do is I want to answer that question of who am I? So of course we have to take a little bit from both sides of the family, from my dad's side and my mom's side. So obviously, let's take all these flags out of my little stand here. Obviously, I am mostly German. I am 100% German on my father's side. I'm a little bit German on my mother's side from her dad. And I'm also French from her dad. So from my dad's side, it's all this flag. From my mom's side, on her dad's side, if you can follow this logic, I'm German and French. Okay? From my mom's side and her mom's side, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, I'm English and French, or English and Irish. So I would really love to know more about this side of the family, where that person was born, you know, maybe an occupation or something like that, going back even further. I might do some more research once I get time and I, you know, get the motivation to do more research. So this may not be the end of my Who Am I videos, but for right now it is. One thing that I do, well, okay, before I get back into that, get off the subject of family history. I've had a lot of people say that maybe I'll be a lot like my paternal grandmother, my mom, my dad's mom. And I say I hope not. Although I am noticing that I am kind of turning out to be a little bit like her. One thing I can tell you about my paternal grandmother, I'll just call her M, the letter M, because I was named after her. That's why Chloe is not my real name. But she lived to be 103. I hope I don't live that long. I feel like I've already lived 3 lifetimes in the last 25 years or so, which I'll get into that in a minute. But she was a big time baker. She was always in the kitchen baking something. She was famous for her donuts, her homemade donuts. She made everything by scratch, or from scratch. She made the best potato dumplings. They lived on a farm in central Minnesota, just north of St. Cloud. And they raised pigs, cows, and chickens from when I was a little girl. That's what I remember. My grandfather, when I was really little, he would farm the land before he got too old to do so. I don't know how many acres they had, but back then, your next door neighbor literally lived a mile away from you. So, probably still do in this tiny little town up there, but it's north of Avon. It's kind of around the town of Avon, but it's north of there. And if you remember, in that side of this family, if you go back and watch my father's side, I did mention a lot about the town of Avon. Now, I've done an Adventures with Chloe video up there as well, because I did a little bit of research before I went up there. And I've also made another video where I talk about the church in Avon. And what I learned was that the town of Avon, Minnesota was founded by my 4 times great uncles. And their brother was my direct descendant, so that he would have been my 3 times great grandfather. And that was Keppers. So they were known as the Keppers brothers. So they founded the town of Avon, and they built the church. My 4 times great uncles built the church up in Avon. St. Benedict, I think it's called. And the church is still standing, and I did do a video of the church right before I realized that I had hurt my foot. That was the day that I hurt my foot, because it was the day that I also, me and Silver Star went up there to Sauk Center to talk a little bit about Sauk Center, and that's when I had Dave Schrader on my video to talk about the Palmer House, because he owns the Palmer House, and I will tell you a little story about that too. Like a week after we went up there, something happened. Not a very good thing either. So my grandmother was a big time baker. So like I said, she made homemade donuts. She made, it would take her all day to make the potato dumplings, because she had like the old hand crank grinder for the potatoes. So we would all be part of this. And I have not tried to make her dumplings in years. I have the recipe, but I have not tried to make her dumplings in years. The last time I tried to make them, when I was pouring out the water, all the potatoes went down the sink. So I was very upset about that. So after that, I didn't make potato dumplings ever again. I would have to buy one of those hand crank potato masher things, whatever, potato grinders. I could probably find one at the flea market, but I would have to have all day in order to do these potato dumplings. They were really, really good. I loved her potato dumplings. They were like the size of a softball. So not like these little tiny ones. They were like really big potato dumplings. It was almost like a meal in and of itself. And she also canned pickles. So she had like a vegetable garden that she tended to. So she would grow a lot of pickles, and then she'd can the pickles. And she also made what she called chili sauce, but we used it for spaghetti sauce, and it is fabulous. But it's all homemade or from scratch. And I do have the recipe for that, but that again takes a really long time, and you have to have, what you do is you kind of mix it, you know, she made the chili sauce, and then you'd mix it with other things like what's the French dressing of it? Catalina, and some other little ingredients mixed with this chili sauce, and it's so delicious. It is just, I call it tangy yum. But I've never made that. So I'm not a big one on cooking, especially since I live here alone and most of my time is spent at work because I work 40 hours a week. But she was more of a baker. She was a very short woman, and she was very ornery. So if you go back to that video of Who Am I, you will remember me telling you that when my grandfather would try to give her a hug, she would just stiffen up. She would not reciprocate. So how she had 6 children is beyond me. She got married very young, at the age of 19, and they, of course, did not believe in divorce back then. They grew up very Catholic. So, and I grew up Catholic. I consider myself a Christian. I don't really attend church right now, but if I were to go back to church, I would do like a non-denominational or evangelical free church. But I don't really want to be like my grandmother. First of all, she ended up losing her sight. She ended up, you know, like I said, she died when she was 103. She lived in the house by herself after my grandfather passed away. She lived in that farmhouse by herself for many, many years. And so she was still living there by herself when she was 102 before she went into a nursing home. And she died in the nursing home. She went in kicking and screaming, let me tell you. I can tell you some stories about her. I don't want to really be like her, but I'm finding that I get really short with people, meaning that short-tempered, I guess you could say. I get easily upset over little things these days. So I'm trying to keep myself in check. It's so unlike me to fly off the handle. So that's why about a month ago, when I lost it on my abuser, it felt really good to get that all off my chest. And I haven't talked to him since then. His wife will not talk to me for some reason. She wants me to make amends with him, I guess. I don't know. She just said she won't talk to me until I talk to him. So I've said everything I had to say to him. So I'm trying not to be that way. But another thing that she really enjoyed was being by herself. And I kind of have that quality in myself as well. So from my dad's side, I would have to say it was his mother that I'm most like. So who am I? I'm a lot like my grandmother, my paternal grandmother. I hope I don't end up like her in the fact that she was very ornery. And she would get mad very easily, and I'm finding that I'm getting to be that way. I don't know if that's just a German trait or what, or if it's in the genes, I don't know. But I can tell you, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I am generally a nice, happy, bubbly person. But we all have our days where we just lose it. You know, we all have our bad days. It's called being human. And once I unleashed rage at my abuser, it took me a few days to come down off of that anger But I'm okay now. I feel like that huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders. The chains are gone. Like I said, I haven't talked to him. I haven't seen him since that day. And I'm fine with that. So I'm actually doing quite well. I know a lot of people are concerned about me, thinking that, you know, I shouldn't have put out that video, for one. Few people have said that to me. And like I said, in that video, it had been years of that anger building up inside of me, and I just became a volcano. I mean, I became Mount St. Helens. The day that I blew up at my abuser, I was Mount St. Helens. I was the Moore, Oklahoma tornado. I was Hurricane Katrina, and I was the Japanese earthquake, all rolled into one that day. Like I said, nobody has ever seen me that mad. I've never been that mad. But it felt really good to finally tell him off. And I'm fine now. Like I said, it took a few days for that anger to subside, because, you know, with those kind of natural disasters, they don't just get over it right away, you know. Especially with earthquakes, there's aftershocks. With a volcano, it keeps bubbling for a few days, and then it starts to settle down. With a hurricane, it's kind of comes in and goes, takes a few hours or whatever, but it's not like it takes days for the hurricane itself to calm down, but it does take some time for the rebuilding process. And with tornadoes, you know, they kind of come and go, but again, it's like a hurricane where it takes some time to rebuild your area, your home, your life, everything. So it took a few days for me to kind of calm myself down from that and get back into my normal life. And I'm fine now. Really, I am. I'm really fine. So that was from my dad's side. Now, from my mom's side, my grandparents on both sides of the family couldn't have been more different from each other. Like I said, on my dad's side, I never saw affection from both of my grandparents to each other. My grandfather, yes, he was like a gentle giant. But on my mom's side, it was quiet. I mean, my paternal grandparents fought all the time. One would say the sky was purple, the other one would say it was green. They were both right, and they would go to bed and fight about that for weeks. Okay, maybe that's an exaggeration, but they would fight a lot. That was the norm at the farm. My grandparents on my mom's side, who lived next door to us, always peace and quiet. I never once, not saying that they didn't, but I never once witnessed them fighting with each other at all. I never heard them raise their voice at each other, ever. So you got the peace and calm over on my mom's side, and a storm on the other side. So my mom kind of had to train my dad how to be loving and affectionate. So I would see my parents being affectionate with each other. So they were kind of like the middle ground. But it's been an interesting ride learning about all these people. And I find it interesting that, you know, I have relatives that were born in Liverpool, because when I saw that, I'm like, oh, isn't that where the Beatles came from? Was Liverpool? I think. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. I was never big into the Beatles. But knowing that I've got these 4 different nationalities on my mom's side, and I don't know where the Belgium came in from. I think that had Belgium. Somebody was born in Belgium. I think that came from my dad's side. Or did it come from my grandfather? Not in Germany. One of them was born in Belgium. And it was far back in do have Pennsylvania in here. I don't know where in Pennsylvania. I would like to know that. That was on my grandfather's, my maternal grandfather's side. And then, of course, learning about Earhart, that was pretty cool. France. Sorry, give me just a second, guys. I'm trying to find out where the Belgium part came in at. I'm pretty sure it was on my father's side. Germany. Yeah, everything means everybody's in Germany. Oh yeah, it was on my father's side, under my 5 times great-grandparents. And it was Gertrudis Nickelmans was born in Belgium. So that's the only relative. And then one more back from her, so that would have been my 6 times great-grandparents on my father's side. They were also born in Belgium. The mother was. Or no, the father was born in Belgium. I don't have the birthplace of the mother, of Gertrudis. So it's interesting that when the further back I went, all of a sudden it was expanding outside of Germany, and I have Belgium bloodline in there somehow. So I don't know if I can go any further back than that. I know that I have a 7 times great-grandparents in here from my father's side. And that last name was Mayer, but I don't have a birthplace or death place of either of those people. But that's when I could go back to the 1800s or the 1600s, which was really interesting. But I can't go any further back than 7 times great-grandparents. But that's, to me, is pretty far. That's pretty cool. So, okay, so let's get back into... Let's take a couple side turns here. So when Silver Star and I went up to Sauk Center to give you guys an Adventures of Chloe up there, when I had Dave Schrader talk about the Palmer House, I did film, when I walked out the Palmer House, and I filmed across the street, kitty corner from where the Palmer House is, there was a building there. So if you go back to that video and look at that building, unfortunately, a week later, after we went up there, exploded. Thankfully, okay, so the businesses were on the bottom, or on the main level, and then there were apartments above it. So I guess there were like 6 apartments above this building. And I haven't delved too much into it. I did hear about it from Dave Schrader. He was locking up the lobby, and he heard this explosion, and he looked out the window, and he saw the building, kitty corner from the Palmer House, that had exploded and was on fire. So thankfully, all the people that were in the apartments above it got out okay. One of them was a mother with a tiny baby, and they got out okay, but they lost everything that they had, all their memories and stuff like that. So Dave Schrader is the kind of guy that would give you the shirt off his back. And he pretty much did that. He invited those people to the Palmer House, gave them clothes to wear because they had lost all their clothes, and he offered them, the people that lost their homes, to stay at the Palmer House so that they didn't have to be displaced too much. So Dave Schrader is a really great guy, and that's just the kind of guy he is. So it's just unfortunate that that building is no longer. So they're going to tear it down and probably rebuild it. But that's, of course, going to take some time. But that is in that video. And like literally a week later is when this explosion happened. Apparently it happened in the roof. So I don't know if there was like a gas leak or something. Maybe it was old equipment in the building and it had just had enough, and there was like a gas leak and it exploded. I'm not sure, but that unfortunately happened to those folks. And like I said, the people got out okay, and there was a GoFundMe, and so a lot of people donated to the GoFundMe. So these people are kind of rebuilding their lives after that happened. And the other thing, I just kind of wanted to touch base on that. And then the other thing I wanted to get into was this year, and I think I've mentioned this in one of my other videos, is this year we celebrate our 250th birthday of America. Of course, you all know that. And because there's a lot of talk about what's going on in DC this year about, now there was supposed to be a big concert. Now all the artists have canceled, or a lot of them have canceled. So now last I heard this morning was that there's not going to be a concert to celebrate the 250th birthday of America, which was supposed to apparently be on Carpathia's birthday, 80th birthday or something like that. He's still having this UFC fight or whatever. How that ties into America, I have no clue. But there's a lot of celebration going on about America being 250 years old. Well, I looked back in history a little bit, and this year is also the 25th anniversary of 9/11. So I wonder if, because I do have a flag somewhere, I used to have it on the back of my couch here, that I call my flag of honor, which it's an American flag, and the stripes on it are the names of all the people that died on 9/11, mostly from New York, but also from Pennsylvania, and also from Washington, D.C., from the Pentagon. And that came out, they made those for the 10th anniversary. So I wonder if there's going to be something like that for the 25th anniversary. Like they're going to do another flag of honor for the 25th anniversary, and maybe add the names of the people that went to New York after 9/11 happened to help dig through the rubble, and the people that went there to feed the people that were digging through the rubble that have since passed away because of all the asbestos in the air and the bad air that was there. They got a certain kind of cancer. They did name it. I don't know if they called it the 9/11 cancer or something. I worked for somebody that was 14 blocks from WTC that day, and he has since passed away from this cancer. I wasn't super close to him, but he was one of my bosses when I was living in Illinois. And I'm grateful that the news is starting to put their names out there, the people that have died since then, because of 9/11. Not that they died on 9/11, but they died as a result of going there afterwards to New York. So I'm glad that those people are being remembered as well. And we should also remember the people that died, the handful of people that died in the 93 bombing of the World Trade Center. Granted, that was in February, but that was in 93, I think. Pretty sure that was in 93. But Ramzi Youssef tried to bomb the World Trade Center, and they were supposed to topple. They didn't. But there was a handful of people there that died that day as well. And then mission accomplished on 9/11. That was also masterminded by Ramzi Youssef, who is sitting in a high security prison in Colorado, along with Zacarias Moussaoui, who was supposed to be part of 9/11, but he was arrested in Minneapolis before 9/11. He was training to be one of the hijackers, and he ended up being arrested. Oh, that's my clock. I was like, what is that noise? He ended up being arrested before 9/11 happened. So, and he was here in Minneapolis training. So he's in the same prison as Ramzi Youssef. And yeah, our tax dollars are going to keep them in prison. Don't know why they got a life sentence instead of the death penalty, but whatever. Not my call. But yeah, so then I was thinking, how many years has it been since Pearl Harbor was bombed? And I think in the video that I talked about it, I said the 75th anniversary, but when I looked at it, I'm like, no, that couldn't be right. So I figured it out. It's actually 85 years this December, December 7th. It'll be 85 years since the bombing of Pearl Harbor, which got us involved in World War II. So a lot of anniversaries are coming up. One happy anniversary because it's 250 years of America, but then 25 years since 9/11 and 85 years since Pearl Harbor. So I wonder if they'll have any kind of memorabilia about those two events as well. Be interesting to find out. So I just wanted to put that out there too. So anyway, I know that has nothing to do with my family, but I just wanted to add that into this video. One other thing I wanted to talk about is I ended up having to get a new phone, which is unfortunate because I would have had another picture of a family member that I could have talked about today on that phone. But when I went to open up my phone one day, I turned it on and it acted like it was going to boot up, but then it like restarted and just kept restarting and restarting and restarting. So I took it to a place called CPR, Cell Phone Repair, here in the Twin Cities, and they thought maybe it was the battery. So I had them order a battery. In the meantime, I went and got a new phone because I couldn't use my old phone. Same exact phone. And then I'm like, oh gosh, I gotta remember all the passwords to get into everything for like Facebook and YouTube and, you know, all the passwords that I use for like online stuff, not like purchasing, but like I have my banking online. I have my, you know, some of my bills that I pay online. I have that automatically set up. So I'm like, I've got to remember the passwords for all this stuff. And thankfully I did remember most of them. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to remember the password to get into my Chloe Murphy Facebook page. So I haven't posted anything in that page for probably a year. I do have a very old phone that still works. The screen is cracked all the heck, which is why I got the other phone that now is dead. And now I had to get another new phone. And I thought maybe it would, because I was going to do the transfer. What I did was when I got the new phone, when the glass cracked on the old phone, I had them transfer everything over. But unfortunately, it didn't transfer the password from my Chloe Murphy page, Facebook page. It transferred the one from my real name, but it didn't transfer the Chloe Murphy one. And I don't remember the email I used. I don't remember the password I used. So I don't know if I can get into that page anymore. I might have to totally set up a whole new page. I don't know. But in the meantime, and I don't use Twitter at all anymore. I haven't used that in years. So I know some of my earlier videos said, you know, follow me on Twitter, but I haven't gotten into my Twitter account in years and years and years. But I can get into my Chloe Murphy Facebook page on my very old phone. So I can still access it, but it's harder to get into it because the phone is so cracked. So once CPR got the new battery for the one that just died, the phone that just died, I brought it back in and they said it could take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours to transfer everything over. So I had to drop both of my phones, so I was without a phone for a few hours. Then I went back and they said, nope, it's not the phone, or it's not the battery, it's probably the motherboard. There's nothing we can do. So unfortunately, I've lost some of the pictures that I had on that phone. And I'm trying to remember which pictures they were. I think some of them may have been from my trip to California. I may have transferred them onto my computer, I don't remember. Some of them may have been, I don't think they were, but some of them may have been from Silver Star and Wolf's wedding. I can't get into them anymore. But again, I may have transferred those pictures onto my computer from that phone before it died. So I can't even get into that phone anymore. So that phone is completely dead. So if those pictures are on there, I'm very sad that I lost them, which is very unfortunate because obviously I can't redo those pictures. But it would have just been a handful because most of the pictures I took from from San Diego and from the wedding were on my normal camera, the one that I'm using right now. So I don't think I lost too many pictures on that camera. But I can't get, or on that phone, but I can't get into that phone at all. It's just, every time I turn it on, I turned it off for several days thinking, okay, maybe it'll just reset itself. So then before I took it to CPR to get the battery changed out, I turned it on thinking, maybe this will work. Nope, it still just acts like it's trying to restart and restart and restart. I can't get into it at all. So I got a whole new phone. Same phone number, you know, same everything. And I was able to get into pretty much everything. Had to restart my happy color, so now I had to go back to the beginning of that, and I had to go back to the beginning of this other game that I play called Arrows Out. So I had to start that one all over again, but that's okay. So I'm working on those. But anyway, it's just been a crazy life for me the last few weeks, but things are calming down in my life, and now that it's getting warmer out, I'm looking at doing some more Adventures with Chloe videos this summer. Somebody at work told me about this really cool aviator museum in southwestern Twin Cities area. So I looked that up. It doesn't look like it's really that big, so I'm not sure if I'm going to do a video out there or not. I might look into it. That one is not free, but the last one that I did at the Pioneer Museum, that place was really cool. But like I said, they're only open on Saturdays from 10 to 2. And that one's out in Long Lake, and they do have free admission, but they do ask for donations. But that place was really freaking awesome. So I had never been there before, so it was kind of a learning experience for me too. But I had made a second video, but for some reason the sound didn't work because I had pushed that button on the top of my camera. So the video turned out okay, but there was no sound to it. So I just deleted that whole video instead of uploading it because I have no way of like overdubbing the voice or whatever. And most of that was, I mean, I had done the majority of the video at the museum itself, so this was just a couple other rooms that were in the main building. And most of those were just like old pictures of people on the walls that were probably either associated with the museum or lived in Long Lake and had something to do with the town. So it's kind of like their version of who do you think you are. So it's like all these old pictures of all these people up on the walls and stuff. So that's basically what that second video was all about, that I didn't upload because it didn't have any sound. So I just deleted that whole video. But pretty cool place. So if you do live in the Twin Cities, it's definitely worth going to see. They do have that military stuff on display until Labor Day. I did notice that after I made that video. So that stuff is going to be up for a while. So if you're into old military stuff, I mean, those guns from the 1630s, that was freaking awesome. I don't know how they dated them back that far, but even seeing the guns from the 1800s was pretty cool. And some of those old, you know, the old typewriters and the old phones and the phonographs and phonographs. I noticed that when you click on if you do the closed captioning on it, it kept saying photograph, like pictures, but it's a phonograph with a record. So they got that word wrong in the closed captioning. But yeah, that place was pretty cool. But there's probably some other historical buildings that I could film around town. Like I said, there's this really cool sculpture garden that most everybody in the country has heard of, which is outside the Walker Art Center. It's very close to downtown Minneapolis, but I probably wouldn't go and do that one until like July because of the LGBTQ community having their month this month. There's a big community in the Minneapolis area, and they kind of hang out in that area, so I don't really want to go down there and be a part of that, to interrupt that, because I want it to just be about the sculpture garden. So I probably won't do that until like July, but I would definitely want to have somebody with me. So I would either have Silver Star and Defray Wolf, or probably Sea Dog with me as kind of my bodyguard kind of thing, after everything settles down from Gay Pride Month or whatever. So be on the lookout for that. I've been wanting to do that for a few years. I just never went down there. So it's part of the Walker Art Center, but I believe it's free because it's all outdoors. So I don't think that there's a fee to get into that. I'd have to do some research on that to see if it would cost anything to get in there. But of course I'd have to do it on a day that I'm off of work. So in any case, but thank you for joining me today on this kind of a hodgepodge video here. It started out being about my family tree and ended up being about everything else. But I might do some more research on my family tree and maybe make more videos if I can get further back in my family tree, or maybe add information to the people I've already told you about that go back a ways. Even going into my 5 or 6 or 7 times great-grandparents on my father's side, if I can get that information. Otherwise, this might be the last video in the series. I don't know. But I definitely see myself as Irish, because I really lost it that day. And I do see myself kind of going along the same path as my paternal grandmother, but I really don't want to end up like her. I don't want to live to be 103. I don't see myself living to be 103. I see myself dying fairly young, maybe 60s or 70s. Longevity on my dad's side, not so much on my mom's side. So, but if there's somebody else that you would like to know more about, like I said, I would like to know more about this person that was born in Ireland on my mom's side, on my grandmother's side. So this John Murphy, born in 1831, and his wife Emma, born in Bristol, England. So I'd love to know more about them. So maybe I'll delve into them. And then, of course, on my father's side, I would like to know more about my aunt that nobody seemed to know about. So with that, we're going to end this with all my flags here. So America, and then all these flags. See if I can get them all out here. All these wonderful flags that I have. And now I got to add Belgium to it, I guess, huh? So these are all my ancestors. So, but this is the one I want the most, Ireland. So, hope you've enjoyed this trip as much as I've enjoyed going through it. If there's anybody that you would like me to delve more into, let me know. Give me the name and that, and then I can maybe see if I can get more information for you on that person. I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. So with that, I'm gonna end this series, but be watching for more Adventures with Chloe videos this summer. We'll have limited time to do that because I'm only off 2 days a week, and on those days I tend to do other things. But Monday is going to be very busy for me because I have 2 doctor's appointments on Monday. One for my ankle, my right ankle, and one for my then another physical therapy appointment for my left shoulder. So only got 2 more of those left. So thanks for joining me, and hope you guys have a wonderful summer. Enjoy the 250th birthday of America this year. Go out and enjoy the beautiful sunshine and the beautiful weather that we have all across the country in the summer, here in this country. And please, again, I'm going to ask, you guys have not been commenting on my videos, so I really want to know where all of you are from. So if you are from another country, I would love to know where you're from. And maybe, who knows? Maybe you're watching me, and maybe we might be related from back when. We might have a common ancestor. Who knows? That would be freaking awesome. I would love to meet you too. Get some more story on your side. Probably very, very distant cousins, maybe. Who knows? But yeah, definitely let me know if you might, Also, let me know if this series has inspired you to look into your family tree. That would be interesting to find out too. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and shut up, and I'm going to let you guys go. So have a sunny day. We'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.